switch over like
I know you want to be on that island all day.
We're on.
It is July 2nd at 9 a.m. We'll call the Wright County Board of Commissioners to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. Looks like potentially a swift agenda, but I've seen things not go that way.
Mr. Commissioner Hewsome is on vacation this week, is that it? Or she's on a business trip?
I'm not quite sure.
Potter, it's always a business trip.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, we'll start off with a review of the minutes from June 25th, one of those extraordinarily longer ones, but I think we kept it under 10 pages just barely.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dahliden,
Second.
a second by Commissioner Burrell for the approval of the minutes from June 10th. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Today's agenda, looks like Auditor Treasurer Mr. Hevela has something to add to today's agenda.
Morning, Board. I have two quick things to add to the agenda. One is authorization to replace an office technician, one in the License Bureau. We have a retirement that we were just notified of, so I'm asking permission to
Consent
post
to?
for that. Is that consent or regular agenda?
You could add that to consent would probably be the quickest way to do it,
Or if that's all right?
if
Yep.
that works.
And then the second thing is just a heads up that our financial statements are done. They're posted on our website, but I could talk about that at my timed item.
So, timed item 3?
Yep.
All right.
And then, Mr. Chair, I had one as well.
Okay.
I was contacted by Highway. They would like to pull the 907 item for today. That'll come back at a future board meeting.
I did see that email this morning. Thank you very much. So, removing the timed item 907, and we're adding one timed item to 902 for Mr. Hevela, and the consent item for the replacement of or backfilling of an employee in the Auditor Treasurer's Department.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to approve the agenda as revised.
All right, we have a motion by
Second.
Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Potter. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Today's consent agenda. Would anyone like to remove anything from today's consent agenda for discussion?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with just kudos that the states finally increased the per diem from $55 to $65.
I know, I think it was over a decade now,
Yeah, at least.
at least a decade.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dahliden, second by Commissioner Potter. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is approved. All right, now to 9:02, we're just about on time for Mr. Hevela for the approval of a 2019 tobacco license.
Right, hey, good morning, Board. This is a new license, so therefore it's on the regular agenda. This would be Andre Prude, doing business as Victory Vapes in the city of Montrose. We have the proper application and the proper fees have been paid, so I'm asking you to approve this tobacco license.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve that tobacco license for.
We have a motion by Commissioner
Second.
Burrell, second by Commissioner Dahliden. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Tobacco license is approved. Approval of May revenue expenditures budget report.
Board, so this is the first 5 months of the year. One line item to draw your attention to, I mean, otherwise we're right on compared to last year. Highway has overexpended their overtime budget due to the spring storms. So just highlighting that we're cognizant of overtime in highway of exceeding the budget. Also, you'll see on the Department 100, to make it easier to review investments, we added a 5711. That's where that GASB 31 adjustment is, where we mark our investments we take our investments to market price. The 5710 is the incoming income. We delineated those two so you can kind of see how we're doing on investment income. Other than that, I don't have anything else to draw your attention to. We are hoping to close June as quickly as possible so we can build the budget books for all the departments, given the first 6 months history.
I'll make a motion to approve the May revenue expenditure budget report.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Dahlhead and second by Commissioner Potter for the approval of the May revenue expenditure reports. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Revenue reports approved.
The board, I petitioned on, I just want to let you know that our CAFR, this is our comprehensive financial report, it is done. We have the opinion from Clifton Larson Allen. This is the basis of our audit exit meeting coming up. But for you and for the public, we're publishing this on our website. I do have bound copies for you guys if you want them. Otherwise, I'll just put one in the back room for you guys.
One in the room is.
One's good.
But yes, our CAFR will be on our website. It is out there today. So,
All right. Perfect. That's informational only then. All right. Thank you. Now we'll move down to the 9:12. Well, I suppose we should wait out a few minutes here. We're running a little bit ahead.
Good.
So do you want to take the 6:20 committee of the whole minutes, Mr. Kelly? I think those will be pretty quick.
Okay, I'll try and provide a brief summary of the minutes. Meeting, as you mentioned, was held on June 20th. Four of the commissioners were in attendance, as well as staff from the administration department and attorney's office. Shane Zart, who's an attorney with Flaherty and Hood, was here to provide some updates on the work that they've done with the state legislature on our behalf regarding utility evaluations in the state assessed properties. We also did talk a little bit about Xcel Energy and their integrated resource planning process and some relicensure developments to extend their operational life. So we kind of gave a brief overview of the session. When it started, there was talk revolving around some legislation reform regarding the state assessed evaluation process and the appeals process. We talked a little bit about the changes that were made to the administrative appeals that gave the process a little bit more teeth, where previously an agreement could be reached and then it could end up in court for years, and then that process was changed. So we talked a little bit about the situation the county arrived in last year, where we had set our preliminary levy and then received new information that a settlement had been made between Xcel and the state. Kind of put us in a tough spot, and that's kind of one of the reasons we focused on this as a legislative item for the next year. So there was some movement, some hope to get some movement, I should say, at the last session on a bipartisan bill to if the valuation goes to tax court, the challenger wins, and some of the payback to the local governments. There's been a few large cases in the state of Minnesota that have created challenges for some of our smaller counties in paying that off. One thing that was noted is the new virtual room that was set up as a communication system to help counties and city staff be aware of valuation changes that were done at the state assessed property. So those will be updated on a regular basis to help get us more information. So the recommendation, we kind of talked towards the end of the meeting about having some more discussions with Flaherty and Hood on ways that they could assist the county. And the recommendation out of that was for myself to solicit legislative issues from the leadership team to discuss at a future committee of the whole meeting regarding legislative strategies. So a quick summary.
Yep. Perfect.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to make a comment that, if we do that where the challenger wins, the Department of Revenue would have to pay the back taxes. That could have a adverse consequence too, because you could have the Department of Revenue just coming out and say, we're going to play it safe and just undervalue, everything too. So.
But you'd rather have them be honest than in the biggest thing about it was having integrity in what you're valuing them. Don't inflate them, don't underinflate them, but just really.
But I'm just wondering if it wouldn't be better to have something kind of a split the difference thing or something like that even,
But you could go the other way, because you could have the counties taking the Department of Revenue to court saying that they're undervaluing them. If it could, and not that you would want to, but you could. I mean, if they were going to be grossly negligent.
It's just, a lot of times there's unintended consequences to things.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's all I had.
No, it's a finesse game.
With that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the committee of the whole and the recommendation.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Dahlheiden. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Now we're close enough back. Now we will bring up Mr. Sean Riley. Planning and zoning to adopt a resolution and findings to not require an environmental assessment worksheet for Valley Paving Asphalt. This is an item that's now been before us. I think we're going on 5 meetings now. It's taken a life of its own. As chair, I am once again going to say how disappointed I am that we took this resolution and did 180 to the public when we had put lots of time out there to go and visit and to see these situations. Once again, I'm still asking that we would go back and adopt the original resolution to require an EAW on this property. But I guess I can see without Commissioner Hewson here, I'm standing very solo here, so.
Well, no, like I said, I went out there, I had an EAW worksheet with me, and a lot of the questions I can answer without having to do a lot of research. All this does is slow a process down. It does not stop it from happening, because that EAW is not going to stop this from happening. It just makes them having to do more work. And I just don't buy that that's in the best interest of the county.
And Mr. Chair, I'll chime in. MPCA up here is pretty strong compared to other states. I do have experience with this. My father sold asphalt plants amongst other things, and I helped set up the Oman Brothers one. They are strict as all get up. All those photos that were out there, tearjerkers, but they're not from this state. They're from down south, which is very loose on their environmental regulations. MPCA, if they had a problem with this, I guarantee you would have seen a different letter than that, because they are not shy in telling you if they have a problem with something. They've never been shy, and I don't expect them to ever get that way. They have their, what I call a neutral positive and a neutral negative. And that's what that one they gave us was a neutral positive, which here it's up to you. Basically, it's up to you when they didn't list any problems they've ever had or see having with this particular item.
We should probably have Sean introduce this item, maybe. I don't know.
You did a good job.
Do your job.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, County Board, Chairman Betts was correct. We've heard this a number of times. You have a resolution in front of you to not require an EAW. If that resolution is acted on, we will hear this item at the July Planning Commission hearing. And then at that point, the Planning Commission with township and neighborhood input will hear the request and decide if it's granted or not and what conditions and requirements are attached to it.
With that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution that does not require the EAW to be filed.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Potter. I'm going to strongly urge the Planning Commission to work closely with the neighboring, the neighbors, and putting conditions in place that are going to make both parties comfortable with it. I mean, these homeowners were there first, and this is a large change in their living conditions. So I want that bar enough to be high, because I mean, they're not even getting the benefit of an increased tax capacity.
And Mr. Chair, I think, I don't know, I'm sure you are aware because you were at the meeting, but the Silver Creek Town Board, I think, really did a good job. I looked it over, and some of the things that they put on already as far as burning propane instead of waste oil, shutting down at 5 o'clock instead of most of them are 7 o'clock. They don't work the weekends unless it's approved by the town board on a special circumstance. There's a lot of things where I think the Silver Creek Board already set the precedent, and the company has agreed with that. They said we can work with that. So yeah, but we will give it a good look. I promise that. So.
Well, if the township has put in its recommendations, I would strongly urge you that you follow what the township
Oh, no,
wants.
we would definitely be looking at that for guidance, so.
No, not for guidance, but for doing what you...
It's still, it's an input, but whenever we can, we honor the township's request. I think we're up in the 90-some% time, and I think
Sounds about right.
certain members may not be. but overall, as the board, I think. Okay.
So, I guess that's where it goes here. Once again, we're going to have a lot of these in the future, and we have to decide as a county going forward in the future on what the finesse is going to be between these types of facilities and the populated areas. So.
Mr. Chair, you know what? You're gonna get me to boil here. This.
I'll leave it
Okay,
alone.
I will trade, I have 4 dairy farms that surround me. I will trade those 4 dairy farms for 4 asphalt plants any day of the week. These guys shut down on the weekends. I go out to grill my burgers, and one of my big dairies is 1.5 miles away. I walk out to grill my burgers, and I think I walked into a barn some days. You know what, though? I live in the country, and it's part of my thing, not in my backyard. No, I don't say that. I say, you know what? I'll grill the burgers another night. I go back in the house. And there's certain things that we put up with by living out in the country. I know we have people that come out here and say, I moved to the country for peace and quiet and all this stuff. Well, you know what? I said, we're an active lot out here. We do a lot of stuff. We have 4-wheelers, big tractors, we shoot rifles, run chainsaws. We do lots of things out here, and people have to get used to that. We need these resources for our roads. We need the cows for our milk and dairy. And you know what? We all got to put up with something. And it bothers me when we all have to just not have it here, not next to me. And like I said, I'll trade my dairies for asphalt plants. They shut down on the weekend. The dairies don't.
Well, they don't
Anyway,
loosely shut down on the weekend because, there's a lot of Saturdays that they end up operating, so.
I think you're going to see that it is not
It's a
big
finesse
deal.
game. It's a finesse game.
Even the one that we have, the McNaborn pit that does burn waste oil, that we may, I think as a member of the Planning Commission, look at that and say, you know what, if you can financially switch over to propane, and this plant here does put out a lot less emissions, which all the research I've done, it will. So I said, I think that's something that we might bring up with Knife River when it comes to that, to protect those residents, so. But anyway, I think we're making way too much out of this. There's more pollutants and more everything coming off of Highway 94 than there will be out of this plant. So, anyway, sorry to vent, but I had to.
All right. Well, I guess any other discussion? Hearing none. Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Aye?
No.
Aye.
Resolution passes 3-2, or 3-1, I'm sorry, with 1 absent. All right.
Thank you.
Going on to the 917 item, Chief Deputy Attorney Brian Asselson for the consider further action on citizens' complaint regarding 21st and 25th Street Northwest.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I just put this back on as kind of an update to the board and possibly to see what kind of, action the board would like to take, if any, in relation to that complaint. The original complaint was filed with the county administrator, and it's under a statute that we haven't had much experience with. I think I've seen one other complaint filed in 25 years. Basically, it alleges that the road was not maintained properly. These 2 roads were not maintained properly by Chatham Township, and that the roads were impassable, is the word used in the statute. When the board took action on November 20th, you, as the board, did 2 things. You laid it over to January to allow the Chatham Town Board to react, and then you also, let me see what the other action was. I had my notes here.
We asked the engineer to go out and do an investigation.
And the reaction I got from Virgil Hawkins and Steve Meyer from the Highway Department was that they found the road to be very similar to most town roads that they see. They did not see a safety issue. Now, I don't know whether to me, that addresses the impassable road issue, but in any event, I've been shooting emails back and forth with the town clerk, Jim Bischoff. The township has hired Paul Otto, one of the local engineers, to take a look at the road, and he's come back to the board with a couple of options that they could do. The most recent email that I got from the township indicated that they had had some extraordinary expenses. I don't know if you all heard about it, but they had a town road where there was a lot of nails and a load of gravel, and had claims from landowners or citizens. They had to actually, I think, redo a portion of roadway to avoid the problem. And so they're looking at possible work this fall to try and shore up this situation. So I guess the options for the board are probably to continue this matter to see what the town board eventually does. Or perhaps you could indicate to the citizens that, you've found that it's not an impassable road and that the matter is concluded as far as you're concerned. I guess what I'm telling you is that the work hasn't been done yet, but I've found the reaction of the township to be appropriate. And in essence, the work is better done by them because there's some dollar limitations in this statute. If we were to go in and do the work to shore up the roadways and charge it back to the township, I think it says we're limited to $3,000 per mile, which really doesn't get a lot of work done. It's an old statute that just hasn't been changed in a lot of years.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brian, I got a question for you. Are we talking frost boil, subsoil issues, swamp issues? What are we dealing with? Why is it impassable? What is it about this stretch?
Commissioner Potter, I traveled it, and what I think actually contributed to the road being a little on the rougher side, and I did think it was, yes, I've been on town roads that are that bad, but it was as bad as they get, I think, But when County Road 12 went underwater, it diverted, the traffic went from the roundabout out and down that road, and it just got a lot of traffic. And I think, so, you could look at it that way too, because it was wet, and the road was soft, and it was in the spring. Well, it's actually been going on for a while, but this year when I did it, it was in the spring. So now you have truck traffic going down, and any frost spoil that's there, the trucks make it way worse. It was a lot of potholes and stuff.
Yeah, but this was last fall when they.
Yeah, this was last fall when they brought it, but I think I tend to agree with both. Virgil, says it's, I don't know if I'd call it an average township road, but if it was in my township, I would be calling up the guy and just saying, hey, get out there and get the grader, and as soon as the road restrictions are, I'll start hauling some gravel. That's my request. And I don't know, I guess. I don't know where the town board is with it, if they're.
Okay. So what my question is, it has nothing to do with the subsoil? The
No,
foundation
it
of
could
that
though,
road?
Mike, it could, because I think it is pushing up the
swamp
bases.
relief pipes, so-
There are places in the road, and I don't know if it's called swamp, but there's soft spots in the road, yeah.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Potter, that's my guess as well, that it's something to do with subsurface issues, but that hasn't been determined really yet. I think they're still kind of trying to study what the best fixes would be. The wording, and in addition, the wording that County Engineer Hawkins responded with was, he said, we found no unusual conditions, and both streets appeared to be typical township gravel roads. So I don't know.
So it's
I don't know what typical means.
So it's not like Wolf Swamp with 48 inches of asphalt?
Well, it sounds like the township has hired an engineer to help them figure it out, whether or not that's done yet or not.
They
up
met
to
with,
them.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Delayden, the last meeting would have been early June. And that's when Engineer Otto presented them with a couple of options, and they're trying to decide which way to go. So it may be appropriate just to lay it over for another 3 months or something to see what kind of work is done. I would note that I haven't had any inquiries from the citizens. They were last issued a letter from our office back in December after the board laid it over, and I haven't heard from any of those folks. So hopefully they're working with the town board. I'm assuming some of them are attending town board meetings and kind of holding their feet to the fire a bit.
Well, the weather this year is not a whole lot.
It's
been a tough
Well,
year.
this spring was, oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's, the spring never quit.
No.
It's still, but, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion, we lay that over for 3 months and then revisit it
I'll
at
second
that
it.
time.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Dahleden to lay this over for a 3-month period of time and revisit it at that time. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr.
Commissioner
Chair, just
Potter?
for the public out there, Chatham Township has taken the initiative to go get somebody to help figure out the problem, give them time to find a solution before we jump in.
It has been a challenge. I live on a gravel road and I drive a lot of gravel roads. And I think, like, our township's very proud of their roads and we're struggling too. We have spots where, like, black dirt is coming up in the middle of the road and it's not even through a swamp. It's right up by my place even. So, yeah, we're all facing the challenges though on the gravel this year for sure. And blacktop too. I mean, we had a lot of issues with the blacktop heaving. So, anyway, leave it at that. We'll look at it again.
Any other discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Thank you. I guess now we're moving down to the Ways and Means Committee from June 26th. Commissioner Burrell, you want to summarize that for me?
Yeah, actually, it was a pretty quick meeting. If I could find the minutes in here, it would be
Here,
helpful. There you go, thank you. And Mr. Chair, we met on June 26th. Commissioner Hewsom and I and Administrator Kelly, along with representatives from the Sheriff's Department. The current rate, what we talked about was the rate that the Sheriff's Office charges for policing the cities around the county. The current rate is $74.50 per hour, and Shauna from the Sheriff's Office looked at a lot of different formulas and came up with one that I think was pretty fair, and she said it was probably the best too. But the recommended rate for 2020 will be $78.25 per hour, and in 2021 will be $81.75 per hour. And the recommendation from the committee was to approve that and pass that on to the cities. It seemed like, we have to adjust it, otherwise we're going to start, subsidizing cities. So, anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes and the recommendation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Potter, for a motion, or for the renewal of the city contract rates in the minutes from the Ways and Means Committee, of which we'll get a formalized contracts as they come forward throughout the year. This is just kind of setting the standard for the year. No, actually, I thank you very much, yourself, Commissioner Burrell, Commissioner Hewson, for vetting that out. The information looks really well. I've been talking with staff over in the Sheriff's Department, so I think it's a good recommendation.
Yep. Going back to 1976 when it was $6.
Yes.
That blows my mind.
Isn't that chart we, I know.
Well, 72 was 365.
365 in 1972. I mean,
I think they were.
how do you fuel a car and pay somebody
I
for
think they
that?
were cutting the costs back then to run the small town cops out of business.
I'm guessing because at 365, you can't put gas in the car and pay the person. I don't know, maybe.
Gas was 19 cents.
Yeah, 19 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
But even still, you start delineating that down, it gets pretty.
Anyway, so, okay, I just thought that was
Well,
funny.
and
too.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I applaud Shauna Altman for going through this because I ran for this office 2 times on the problem with the Sheriff's Department subsidizing that rate. I mean, it's a business here. As much as you hate to admit it, you've got to run this like a business. What is the true cost of being here? And if you're going to subsidize, at least let people know what the true cost is, and this is how much we're subsidizing. Otherwise, this is the true cost of having that deputy on the road, fully insured car, the whole enchilada, everything there. What does it cost to have that person on the road per hour? And I think this is now we're close to about 90% or whatever the true cost of that. We're getting real close up there.
It would be interesting to see what the actual, the best that you could, you really never
Shauna could give you that information, but I know when I first, the second time around, not the first time around, the second time around, this was a big hot button issue because the subsidizing of this costs more than that to put on. We were at like $41.75 an hour, and I know darn well back then it was like, they had determined it was like $55 an hour to have that car on the road. I mean, you just can't keep doing that. I mean, if you're gonna, at least here's the true cost, if we're gonna subsidize it, let people know what the whole story is, instead of just saying, throw this number out here, and they say, well, that doesn't make it.
And I
I
think,
applaud them for going through this and getting this where it belongs.
and it does appear that we are making a little bit of an adjustment, because the 2-year percentage is like 9.73. So a little bit more than probably your regular inflation. So that's what
have to play some
Shauna came
catch
up
up,
with, though.
yeah.
That's the true numbers that she's coming up with.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, when you do this, we're making up for past, not really sins, but past inaccuracies, because you do 1.3% in 2012, 2013. You still work in there, trying to be sensitive to the situation, but you still got to have the true cost of running the operation.
Absolutely, because our squad cars don't get any cheaper, and the fuel doesn't seem to ever get much cheaper either, so.
Well, if we want transparency in government, you got to let people know what it costs. Okay, this is what it costs to have a deputy on the road per hour. They can like it or hate it, but here's the fact. Here it is. Here's what it costs.
But the best thing is that taxpayers are winners either way, because of economy of scale, one administration for multiple departments is a win-win, no matter how you slice it, so. So with that, we got a motion, we have a second. Any other further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes and recommendations are approved from the Ways and Means on June 26. Technology Committee from June 26. Commissioner Dahlheim.
He wasn't
Thank you,
there.
Board Chair.
Oh, he was there, yeah.
You want it, Charlie?
It was way too complicated, and I think I might have slept through part of it.
I was wondering what that noise was.
I heard it was a long one. Is that true? I heard you guys were trying to set a record, and you guys were at 90 minutes.
Well,
When we were talking about-
Charlie kept
Actually, I
asking too
wasn't
many
sleeping. It was
questions.
part of the phone system discussion, it went on for a long time. We could have, if
we had
Mark
to
wanted
cut
to
it
cut us off, we wouldn't have had lunch. I don't think we had lunch, better.
Anyway, yes, we met on Wednesday, June 26th, and there was just a couple of things we had to talk about. And one of them definitely was a surprise to a lot of people. ERP update, things are moving along. The time frame has been changed a little bit to August of this year to April of 2020. Phase 1 again will be financials, with Phase 2, the human capital management, beginning next September. So that's just continuing. The vendor negotiations is still ongoing. They have got it all settled out with the company that's going to be dealing with us, Cyber, Oracle. They're still negotiating with them. Office 365, lot been going on with that. And you'll see on the project portfolio update, some of it's been closed out already. There's a few remaining pieces. The security is what has lagged us down on trying to get a few things done. Then we're kind of ahead of the game compared to a lot of the other counties. So that's a good thing for Wright County. The next phase will be identified soon, and the prioritize the rest of the Office 365 into pieces, which they can have a clear beginning and an end. So that's still going on. It's information only. The committee is strongly advised to be provided with a timeline of 365 projects, as well as prioritization of SharePoint Online as the next Office 365 item to be worked on. IT project portfolio updated. Again, there's an update in here that there was a few different things that had been closed. Part of the Office 365 was closed in the second quarter. The enterprise mobility and security and NetMail migration is all done. And then also the ERP vendor selection. Hopefully it'll be done in Q3, and Zerker Police Department integration, which, if you remember, was Zerker is the Sheriff's Office software, which Annandale, Howard Lake, and Buffalo have all tied into. And I guess that's been working really well, from my understanding. One of the spotlights they did was the Health and Human Services on-base reporting dashboards. There's been a lot of benefits to Health and Human Services, and provides access to real-time data, and they're still working. And the advantage of all this was that this will also help work with other departments too. So it wasn't just an HHS project. The item that Charlie dragged us down with, and I'm not going to go into it, but we were all surprised with the call center for HHS. High-level discussion was that the existing equipment and software is in need of immediate attention. The server's running on beginning of end of life, and the software is also no longer being upgraded. It, again, took a lot of us by surprise. One of the advantages of the call center for Health and Human Services, that before we implemented it, people are answering their phones 40% of the time, and now it's up at around 90%, a little bit over 90%. So we have improved customer service.
Certain departments, though. I think financial.
Financials is the one where this is being utilized. It's not being utilized out at the Pomida Center.
No, and that's where, yeah.
Anyway, to make a long story short, long story short,
Just to make it shorter.
make it shorter.
Sure.
Because of what's going on with it, it was recommended that there be a committee of the whole set up for it, so that we can discuss what we should do. I mean, we have to make a short term, try and fix, or should we try and get by and implement new software right away?
Doesn't this play into the phone system as a whole of the county somewhat too? Is to-
Yes
because if you want to make
yes
everything
and no.
uniform,
Yes and
possibly
no.
choice.
I've been out looking at a couple of different ones online. Some of them are cloud-based, that will actually do more than what our current call center is, even if we upgraded.
The annual costs seem very high on this.
Well, with the one that they had showed us. So there's multiple companies out there that do this. So I think we need to instruct staff to do a little bit of research so that we have some real numbers.
Cost-benefit analysis on it a little bit.
Well, that was part of the thing, was to direct Mark Stoller to check with some other counties and see what they're doing, if it's working for them, what they're using, so.
And I would
Don't
say,
need to reinvent the wheel.
no, and I'm thinking also commercial businesses
Yep.
too, because they own that, where the counties, I don't think, do a very good
You
job
don't
with.
recommend buying Minlars?
No. No, or having anybody that actually worked on Minlar.
Yeah,
work on
anybody.
the Call phone system. But anyway, and then they're also going to kind of explain a little bit what each part of the system is, because they have purchased some of the phone equipment for the Justice Center and the new government center. And there was confusion on what that was compared to the call center, and how there are actually two different parts of the phone system. So they're going to explain that a little bit better, and then hope that Charlie will finally understand.
Sounds like you had fun, Charlie.
And Commissioner Glide,
Go ahead.
looking at this, you know, it's, financial services is over 20,000 calls per month by itself. And you know how fast we're growing as a county, you know that number's gonna go up. And if that's at end of life, we need to do something now. I mean, again, surprised me that it was that close to end of life, because I thought we'd had all these figured out where the time frame where they're falling off,
I
but.
think it took a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah.
I was
we just
more-
gotta- We gotta deal with it.
I was interested to find out that we're kind of having multiple systems kind of in the, we don't have a cohesive phone system throughout the county. I was kind of more interested to find out that we have kind of a patchwork system that, I'm going to use the word semi works together.
Well, yes and no, and that's why it really got confusing, which is why they need to explain what each part does and how one of them really has nothing to do with the other.
And, Mr. Chair, and part of my discussion was, too, it's not necessarily even all the technology. It's like when you're at your desk and your phone rings, answer the phone. And financial is very good about it, social services not so much, and I think the worst one, none of the judges are here today, but court administration. I have called up there, I don't know how many, I wouldn't say hundreds of times, but maybe around 100 times since I've been a commissioner. I've never got someone to pick up a phone once.
Call from my phone, see if they pick up.
No, maybe, maybe that's it. But it's just at some point, you have to have a level of customer service, and if they don't care about your customer, well, then I guess you won't pick up the phone, so.
No, and Mr. Chair,
They don't care about their
and
customers.
Mr. Chair, with this, we knew the phone system was, the rest of it was 2020-ish, to do it.
You even
This is
answer
just
your
a case
phone.
of whatever patchwork came in,
Sometimes.
because keep in mind, for this county, Health and Human Service, 20 years ago, virtually didn't exist, and it just blossomed into what it is. And of course, you just grab the first thing off the shelf you can get just to get by, and maybe this is the time to see the whole unit that we need for the whole system here, all departments in here, how we make this, and get the right product so we're not doing patchwork
Yeah.
and creating more problems for IT or anybody else.
And I agree with you on that. I think the patchwork things that were done were just trying to get by till the right time was right to try and find the cohesive system that might.
Right.
Yeah, but they
Timing.
didn't do that. They didn't do the searching, and it's all of a sudden at end of life without having a plan in
Plan in
place.
this place, yeah.
So the thought was to go to another patchwork and upgrade, do a complete review in 2020, and I just have a really hard issue with spending that kind of money. And then we may not have a choice because of timing, but I think it should be explored, because it'll be some heavy lifting, as our county executive has stated, county administrator, that it'll be heavy lifting with everything that else that we have going on, but it hits a lot of departments, and it's a critical factor to take care of customer service, take care of the residents.
Correct, and I just, if we're gonna have to do a major overhaul, let's just get all the information and make the best long-term so that you get by cheap, Remember, you can be good or you can be cheap, but you can't be good and cheap. There's just no way. It just doesn't work that way.
Mark, you have a couple items yet to
Yeah.
go.
So,
Do it.
To it. Not even close to lunch yet.
God, is he
Is it
bossy?
lunchtime already?
Somebody throw him a Snickers. Next item was virtual desktop infrastructure, VDI. This is to bring an enterprise-wide version of VDI for the remote workers. The current VDI environment will not cover more teleworks or occasional remote workers. They're looking for alternatives, and we wanted to find out, make sure that it is cost-effective. But we have to figure out a way to do it all. But the VDI, along with the call center or the phone system,
Right.
actually work together. Because right now, our existing system, we cannot have calls forwarded to our remote workers. So we need to look at this as a whole deal. So they have been using a trial version of it. It has been working. So they're just trying to figure out regarding future expansion. Next item was the 800 millihertz radio fee for 2020. Again, this is just an annual review. We did look at it. Last year we raised it quite a bit. It's at $100 a radio, and it was decided not to increase it for 2020. We'll look at it again next year.
Okay, fair enough.
One of the things that we just want to make sure, about 45% of the radios are with the county,
Approximately.
and the rest are throughout
Fire
fire
department,
departments,
schools.
other police departments, and all that. This whole cost for the 800 megahertz is around $250,000 a year?
Total cost, yes, and of that, we end up getting about 100 and so back
So,
to help offset the cost.
yeah, so it's, we are subsidizing it, but, so it's just something to let everybody know. And then joint technology and CIP committee meetings to review requested CIP technology projects. And that will be scheduled for the second week in July. And with that, I will recommend approval of the minutes and the recommendations.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second for the approval of the June 26th IT minutes and the recommendations. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, items for consideration B, schedule a committee of the whole, call center, Health and Human Services.
And
How
Ms.
timely, right? No.
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering too if we, we shouldn't maybe look at a little more broader perspective and, you're going to have a new government center out there and whatever. I mean, do we really want to, if we're going to have a committee of the whole, I think we could expand it to, I mean, that's fine to look at the Health and Human Services, but maybe look at the county.
Well,
I thought that it was, that we were going to look at the county phone system as a whole, not just the call center, but that's part of it as well.
The way it worded. it
Correct.
looked like it
I mean,
was
this, just
All right, so we need a
the
date.
commentary,
Good
Mr.
call, you should probably, just phone systems in the county, so we're not pigeonholing ourselves in terms of the
Correct.
title.
I mean, this really started as Health and Human Services had a need they had to solve. They found this solution and added it onto our existing phone system. Now it needs some upgrades. It's at the end of life, and the discussion is really spawned on, do we solve this temporarily? Do we look at taking a look at the whole phone system? Especially in light of our upcoming building projects, it might be some good timing. However, obviously, there's a cost both in staff time and the efforts to get it up and going, as well as the cost. So I thought it'd be good to discuss with the full board. As we discovered at the committee, there's a lot of nuance of how these systems interact and
Right,
work
Charlie?
together. So I just thought it'd be good for everybody to get all the information as a committee of the whole.
All right.
So, Mr. Chair,
You guys, how far does staff need to get information on this?
Did we vote on those?
No, we didn't schedule it yet.
We have to reschedule.
No, I mean, we voted on the other thing.
Yeah, we voted on the IT.
Yes.
Commissioner Potter, go ahead.
yeah, the question is, when it comes in, I gotta imagine that Carver, Scott, Hennepin, and Anoka has gone through this already. Let's just see what they've done, what solutions are out there, and just gather some information, because it's not gonna take much, because that's gonna get the rest of us up to speed.
Yeah, they need to have the information before we would have a meeting, otherwise it's just gonna be a waste of time.
Right. Because it's just not the Health and Human Service. I know in our CIP, we had a new phone system for the government center back in 2020. It might be pushed off to 2021 based on all this information. There's no way we're gonna gather that information in time for 2020 implementation. And might as well just hold off until the new government center building is done and make sure that, patch whatever we can until, and then just.
And see, and that again goes to us understanding phone systems, call center,
Yeah.
two completely different things, but they do mesh, so.
They do.
And there was a lot of confusion, so the voicemail is not part of the call center, but yet they do interact, and Charlie really got me confused on last Wednesday.
I was confused.
No, it's a little more complex than meets the
It
eye, so
is.
it's just gotta get to the bottom of what, and like I say, we can't be the first county that had to encounter this. Let's find out what somebody else did and what their solutions were, and whether we agree or disagree with it, at least we know.
Yeah, and again, I think we need to look at
Lee.
businesses too, because
Right.
they own that.
Lee, in order to give the IT people some time to do that research that we're talking about, we don't want to do this too soon, so would you have a recommended date? And then we can always adjust it if we had to, I guess.
I was kind of thinking maybe the earliest on the 23rd. I know there's other meetings that the board is committed to later that day. Otherwise, we are looking out probably till August. It would be good to have some discussion and potentially resolution on the direction we're going with this prior to budgets. So I wouldn't want to push too far into August, but I guess to me, the sweet spot's somewhere between the 23rd and maybe the 13th-ish August.
You want to go like 11 o'clock on the 23rd after board, or?
I think that's an option, yeah.
That's
On the 23rd?
almost 3 weeks then. Don't they should have time to do their research and get their information gathering?
Oh, I'm just
The
wondering if that's too
23rd, don't
tight.
we have that coffee with the commissioners?
Yeah,
at
1:30
After the
1:30.
1:30.
And this is not gonna be a quick meeting. If it's anything like the way it went at IT,
We could go at 10:30 meeting, and
Well,
that
it'll be
gives
at
us,
least an hour.
yeah, but if we meet it at 10:30, that would be 2 hours.
11:30, 12:30, and then.
Well, we can try that. If for some reason you don't get enough information in time, you can always pop it out a week or two.
Okay.
You know, it might be good to have it,
A preliminary?
yep.
So 10:30 on the 23rd.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to schedule a committee of the whole to discuss the call center for health and human service amongst the phone system for the rest of the county for July 23rd at 10:30.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Burrell for a committee of the whole on July 23rd at 10:30 regarding phone systems and call center at the county. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes.
What is that seagull up to?
All right. Request, item C, items for consideration, a proposal for development at CASA 39 and 42. And who has this one?
Well, I had requested it be on there. But actually, I know you've been discussing things with the real estate agent.
Yes, I'm aware of what the
So I-
situation is.
I'm gonna let you talk about it more, because you seem to have a
Well, I mean,
higher what they want.
basically what, to my understanding, what is requested on this item is that they're looking for, intergovernmental loan from the county to the city of Otsego, for the time period to basically, float out their, tax abatement with it. So basically, the county would front the money to the city of Otsego, and then basically the city of Otsego through the abatement will pay back the county on it, some, to that effect.
And it's for getting the streets and infrastructure into place at that location.
Yep.
And there are some numbers listed in here, along with some plans. And you can also see where the city wants, the city and county, and without it, the way it sounds, this may not happen. But it's all the different infrastructure. But there's some other people that are looking at some of these other buildings for growth right away. So it sounds like this will move pretty quickly.
You move pretty quickly, and I mean, the payback period's very short. I think it's over just like a 2-3 year period of time. And I think the total was around $500,000, and it'd be a couple $100,000. It was between $500,000 and $600,000 would be the intergovernmental loan, something to that degree. It'd be, but payback would be a couple $100,000 a year from the city of Otsego back to the county. So it's basically, if we're, it's, this right here is kind of a fact finding, if the county's, if the board's interested in kind of starting these conversations and working with the attorney's office, the city of Otsego, and the developer, to go to the next stages and finding some sort of agreement to facilitate this.
So what exactly are they asking of the county then?
They have
Intergovernmental loan.
for the purpose of,
And what do we
make sure it's
have,
clear for the people out.
what would be the collateral then, whatever?
Well, I mean, I guess there'd be a lot of things you could use as, I mean, we could require a collateral for it. I mean, basically, because
We're trying to help the county develop into with more property to increase the tax base.
Yep.
And provide,
Or do you think it's just a real safe bet anyway?
I mean, it's an entirely safe bet. I mean, it's not.
well, if this isn't safe, then it's,
Well, no, I
And
mean,
nothing is.
Yeah, nothing's, I mean, because they would have to default their taxes at that point for it to not get paid, us not to
I
get
say
paid back.
no one wants to see the business grow and get some development that way than I do. So is this something that other parts of the county this would be available?
Well, that could well be. And that's what we're doing, is we're setting a precedent, because I'm not aware of the county doing something like this in the past.
We're not giving away any money. We're just offering a very, very no-interest loan for a short period of time.
Is it
to
a
be able-
low or no interest?
It's, well, at this point, it's no interest. I mean, I guess we could talk to the city of Otsego. We could put an interest rate on it. I'm not sure how that works with intergovernmental loans, if you can do it. You could. So we could put an interest rate
Well,
on
I'm
it.
just thinking we should at least get what we get in the magic fund.
So you can get the 2.85, which is, I mean,
And then,
Well, again,
are they extended so far that they can't get their own credit that way? Or do you think it would be a higher
they would have
interest
to
rate?
bond, and they don't want to bond for a short period of time.
Got it.
So again, what we want to do is make sure that there was interest with the board before we proceeded.
I would be okay. I think we need to talk with Bob Hevela and say, at least get what the magic fund is or what we're getting for an average for our investments.
Yeah.
Kind of what we did with the financing of the county ditch repairs.
Yeah, so we need to get more accurate numbers, but the town, the city wanted to find out if the county board was willing and interested in working with them on
but
it.
this is a huge thing to help us get these type of projects off the ground, is it being able to work with our municipalities. Because a lot of these municipalities, the cost of having to get a bond for the $600,000, and the issuance cost, and it just makes the project just unachievable.
So the object of this mostly is for the infrastructure, the roads and that around it?
Yes.
Speed
Yep,
goes
in
up.
that development.
In that
yep.
development, yep.
Yeah. Just what I'm seeing is 42 and 39 to make that intersection.
No,
up.
that's already in the works.
That's, oh, yeah, I figured it was, that's what I was saying.
No, it's the streets within the development.
It's the 88th Street piece, it's
Okay.
the, on the.
Parkview Avenue and 87th
Yep.
Street.
Okay, 88th, okay,
Yep.
80 to
Lee,
87,
is this
okay.
something that some other counties are doing, Hennepin, Anoka,
You know, other counties do or have funds set aside for different types of initiatives similar to this.
this would be kind of new.
It is.
It's new for Wright County, but it's not new for
Right.
counties at all.
But, I thought you said that nobody did it.
No, it's relatively common, I believe.
Oh, it's
in the
common,
larger-
okay.
Across the nation, it's fairly
The
common.
developer is very interested in what we've got planned for 39 and 42 at that
Well, it's
intersection.
like saying-
I'm
and it's
supportive.
been,
It's important that we would move forward with this
Mike, what
at some
do you-
point, because if we
you're-
don't, it's not likely to happen.
But I just hope that, it is precedent setting, but on the other hand, it's probably a good precedent if we can help our cities out and get some an economic boost in there. I mean, I know the Economic Development Coalition.
They're working with them on it,
Yeah,
but
they
they can only do so
They only
much.
have, it's limited though, what they can come up with, and it's gotta be certain criteria then too. So then we'll probably have to have, this might be a workshop thing where we sit down and maybe look at some other counties and see what they're doing, what kind of parameters they have. Because is it going to be for roads? Is it going to be for housing? Is it going to be for business? And then there could be a lot of questions.
So who's going to be the, Mr. Kelly, if this moves forward, who would be the point person? Is somebody in the attorney's office going to help work with that, or your office going to work with it, or some?
I can kind of coordinate it, but I think we're going to have to pull in multiple folks.
Multiple
Obviously,
folks,
there's a
yeah.
legal component of it. Obviously, there's a financial component of it. So if it'd be helpful to the board, I can run point on kind of coordinating.
Well, I'll let them know so that we can get some,
But I think there's
Right,
for sure interest,
that's fine. Just wanted to make sure.
this is one of those intersections that I was kind of wondering why this wasn't developed 10 years ago or before the last crash here, but it is interesting in the fact that, they have the one grocery store, the Target, which is kind of a junior grocery store. This was ripe for a grocery store coming in with that many people that close to their town center.
And then we have to be careful too, are we, picking winners and losers
Well, no, and we will have to come up with some
criteria.
criteria, it has to be over a certain amount, new business, or,
Is it jobs related?
we don't want to be competing with existing businesses. You know, and like you said, Target does have food, but not to the extent.
Yeah.
Not a full, it's
that-
about three-quarters grocery
that-
store.
That a Coburn's does.
Well, and the other piece of this is that you have to use the metric is to what's our threshold for payback periods of time?
And you can't TIF retail.
Yep.
So anyway, we do have to come up with criteria, and, you know, that'll be definitely where legal will have to help us on. The guy without the bow tie.
Okay, Mr. Chair, this good segue into Wright County Economic Development Partnership, because the county board before, when they started that, limited their revolving loan fund to $50,000, so that will be coming up before us, that how do we want to do that now, because that's not enough for that gap finance that we do for some of these businesses, and they have $200,000 sitting there, but they're limited to $50,000, and most of them 75 to 100,000 they need to get going. So looking to bring that to the board, see how do we want to go forward, modernize this thing to give them the options to help these businesses get going and use that money instead of just sitting in a savings account, because that's not doing us any good. And I believe the seed money came from the county in the first place, but the board at the time when they were formed, you know,
That was
limited
a
what
few
they could
years
do.
ago, too.
Yeah, well, it's a long time
Well, in
ago.
today's economy, $50,000 doesn't go far anymore. It needs to kind of look
And
at
it's,
it from.
basically what they do is just gap financing is what it is anyway. And I just want to give them more options, so if things like this, they can go right to Economic Development Partnership and get that, and have them enough to get these things off the ground, because not just in Otsego, but say Waverly or Cokato, let's talk, South Haven, if something was to come up there and help that little town get something going, if possible. But I'm in favor of helping and looking and see what we can do within the parameters without, we're gonna set a precedence, but it's about time we jump into that one too. If we're growing like we are, we're gonna have to get a little bit of help
We want to,
here.
we want to work with the cities. We want to help extend the tax base for the cities and the school districts and for the county also.
And I thank you, Commissioner Dahlheiten, for bringing this forward, because I had had a number of conversations with the developer on it and just trying to figure out a methodology. You beat me to the punch, which is great that we got this moving forward here. Do you want to just have this come back as a agenda item, a workshop item? What do you think, Mr. Kelly?
I think it'd be probably good to get a little action moving on it and then touch base in a workshop.
Yeah.
Okay, so shoot for August workshop too. I guess,
probably
how
be-
soon does
I
that?
don't know.
Yeah,
I
that's-
think the developer has applied to Otsiko's Planning and Zoning. I think they've submitted, if I remember correctly, from my last email.
What is 42? Does it have another name?
Highway 42,
County Road 42, no,
it's the one that goes right in front of Target,
Target.
in between 101 and Target.
Okay, Charlie, if you,
Oh, yeah.
at Charlie Parish Avenue.
So
they
we'll,
go
I
right
guess
down
I'll
there.
let Commissioner Dahlheiten and Lee, yourselves, work with the city of Otsego, figure what they need for a timeliness of this. And if it needs to come back before the August workshop, do so. Otherwise, we'll kind of target August workshop to figure out what it would look like for us to have an intergovernmental loan for municipalities in the county.
Yeah, I'll find out exactly their time frame. In fact, chances are they're watching this video now, unless they fell asleep from earlier. And there may be an email with that information on my computer.
All right.
Yeah, it appears the application development was submitted. They're looking for a late July or early August planning commission or city council approval, so we might have to speed our
Speed
timeline.
this up. Then maybe we'll just set a committee of the whole to deal with it then, or
Why don't we get a little more information? We can report
bring it back
maybe at
next
the
week and
workshop
put a,
on-
all right?
Yeah,
Or wait,
fair
we don't meet
enough.
next 16th, we'll.
All righty.
All right. With that, then, advisory committee minutes. Anybody else want to start it off? Mr. Kelly?
Yeah, a few things. We have new facilities supervisor joining with us today. Be taking over out at the LEC. Matt Arendt is joining us, so that position been open for a bit with the retirement of Pete Scheck out there. So had the opportunity to attend the Highway 25 Coalition with Commissioner Vetch last Thursday. Very interesting meeting. Nice to work with some of the partners there.
Did you draw the winning card for key staff point person?
I'm assisting in the developing of information, but I'm not running point on it.
I would hope you, I think everybody probably looked at each other in that room, didn't they?
You know, it was a good facilitated discussion we had at the staff level, and there were some volunteers at different points, so it was good.
So are you guys going to split that position role? Or, because I know there's talks of it, can it be done by multiple people, or would it be better if it was done by one person, and how does that look?
Ultimately, it was decided to have a group of 3 with one as the primary and the other 2 assisting in that. So that went to Mark from Sherburne, the planning coordinator, I believe is his title. So
And then,
Speaking of Sherburne, have they,
Sherburne
Messel-
County?
Messel
Yes,
got it.
they have offered the position to Bruce Messelt, who's currently at Chisago County. I believe they're still in negotiations on the final terms, but it's my understanding he's accepted, so
cool,
He was a finalist for-
congratulations to Bruce, a good friend of mine, and look forward to working with him.
Good-
be a lot closer.
Yeah, they're good administrator. I mean, I know he was a finalist for the administrator for the city of Blaine, so it's a question whether you just take that instead of the county. But good news for Sherburne County that he picked them, because in my opinion, I thought he was the best candidate of the bunch that they had sitting there. And my experience with him is all positive that this gentleman knows what he's doing and is going to lead them well.
Well, we should convince him that he should move into the Wright County if he's gonna work in the Sherburne County.
I do think they made a great choice with Bruce, absolutely. So are you and Jeff O'Neill then the secondaries for the Highway 25 then?
I'm trying to remember the exact list. There was a whole bunch of different roles that people needed to fill. So there were not just 1 or 2 assignments, there were about 15 different things that got divvied up.
Are we still facilitating the minutes and all of the paperwork then still, or are we?
We are currently going to be the minute taker. I'll shoot you an update on kind of the process, the way they want to route the logistics of it, so it's not such a load on the board chair to distribute everything.
All right,
So there'll be some staff resources assigned to that, so.
perfect. All right,
Yeah.
good deal. The Highway 25 coalition, for those of you that don't know, kind of took its own life, a life of its own, and now it's kind of gone beyond a river crossing. Now it's kind of more of a regional planning
But that's what,
group, which is
that's
good.
what
It's,
MDOT wants.
it was what it needs, because we're kind of in the point now where we don't even want to really call it the Highway 25 Coalition. We're in the process of renaming it, renaming the group, because we want to actually have this as kind of more of a regional planning group. So,
It'll check more boxes with MnDOT and feds.
yep.
It makes more sense, though, to look at it as an overall.
It is.
Why are we gonna put this road here if we haven't figured out what's gonna happen around the road?
Well, because we were looking at from the zonings from Sherburne and Wright County and Big Lake and Monticello, from our zonings and how they match up, how our the utilities line up, how everything from environmental impacts to our stormwater systems. We're trying to go way outside of just the traffic, so.
Good.
And that's what MnDOT and that's what the feds want you to do.
Yep.
So that's the correct way of going on this.
I'm sorry, Lee. Nope. I had to ask questions. I just thought you brought it up.
Trying to bring up the document here and it's sitting and spinning, so I'll follow up with more information for you
We
there.
got lots of time. This is the most like, because you met on Friday, didn't you? So,
Actually met yesterday in
yesterday,
a
so that was
conference
even-
call, so there's some deliverables and information gathering around RFP language to pull together, as well as some of the contractual thing. Many hands make light work, so the group's, I think, doing a good job. I feel like kind of coming fairly new into the fold here, that it's really got a direction, is moving forward now, so.
thank you for attending that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a good meeting. Just maybe one other thing to mention, I know Alan is working with Contegrity on getting together the newspaper posting that'll go out Friday and the next couple weeks for the bids of the government center. So that'll be out there. The plan should be listed on their plan room, Contegrity's plan room, on or about Friday. So folks are watching and waiting for that. That's where it's at.
What about the training facility?
Yeah, I know Alan's got some updated info from RJM. I did see a preliminary estimate come in of construction, the 75%. So I think, if I remember right, it was slated for August 6th meeting to come with that to the board.
With the bids?
Not with the bids, with the ability, the cost estimate and the ability to send it out for bids.
Oh,
Oh, so
okay.
we're not going to bid it till August then, huh?
Correct on that one. It's
Okay.
gonna be a
Have
little bit,
we-
I believe. I'll have to review that timeline, but
We made I'm assuming some sort of agreement with the FBI, let them know that we're moving along.
The discussions we've had thus far, it's been okay, it's just
Okay.
that we've demonstrated we're moving forward. But I don't know if we need to get something in writing. It hasn't come to that point, but it might be good to check, so.
Yeah, I sure hate to see.
No, no.
I was surprised. I thought the bids would have been out more before.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that the FBI contact James Walden is somebody that I have experience with. He's a straight shooter. There's not going to be any hitch or any problem with that setup with the FBI at all on this. They're going to, I'm sure they're in the loop all the way through it. And I don't foresee any problems because like I say, my experience with him is that he is a straight shooter. There is no games.
Lee, one other quick question regarding the ERP
Yes.
and negotiating with Oracle. Have we come closer with that, or are we still out there?
We have a meeting of our group tomorrow to kind of discuss where we're at. Oracle's requested a meeting with us next week,
Okay.
but we're trying to drive that discussion more than that was, it sounded like the sales team was going to come out. That's good. I think we've seen the sales thing. We need to get the negotiation team moving here, so we'll have, we're trying to drive that discussion, I guess is my short answer.
Okay, thank you.
I should follow up. I gave you a little bit of bad information here. Relative to the tentative schedule for the tactical, they're thinking of bringing it for the July 16th meeting. Tentatively now, so start advertising. So that would put our bid opening approximately the 15th of August.
Okay.
So a lot of dates flying around right now. Sometimes they
A lot of things
try
going
and
on
keep
right
them all
now.
in the right order. So
Anything else?
that's all I had for today.
All right. Commissioner Potter?
Well, since we didn't do it last week, it kind of got to go back a few weeks. I did mention the Wright County Economic Development Partnership with the limitations on the gap financing. I will be talking with Fourth Floor on the formation of Wright County Economic Development Partnership and our role in it and how we can modify that. Right now, everything that they do has to come before the board before we approve, trying to modify that to modernize it. So I'm looking at that, probably be August workshop would be early enough for that one. To try to figure out a game plan going forward to update that, to make it easier. Instead of 3 hoops to jump through, they can only jump through 2 to get something going that'll help our businesses, and how we want to let that structure go, you know, because right now we do all the financial auditing and everything else. Do we really want to keep doing that or is not? And he will have to chime in, but we got to get the history of how that was formed and what was going on, so we know what the rules are or what we've done now, so we can move forward and come up with a more modernized way of helping out like a city of Otsego or somebody else. So instead of just $50,000 gap finance, which isn't enough, make it modernized. Other thing is the DC fly-in. Again, that was entertaining, enlightening. I'm thrilled with the freshman class that came in. They seem like they want to get something done, which is better than it was the last couple of years, because I didn't feel that. They actually want to, and they're making their caucuses mad by actually talking and getting along. Pete Stauber's in a problem-solving caucus, which is both sides of the aisle get together and discuss some of the issues coming up to try to come with some consensus so they could actually move forward, which, God bless them for trying. You know, that's what they need to do. 7W, again, that was a few weeks back, and I don't have the notes in front of me, but Wright County still seems to come out okay on every time they come forward with that. We have 1 year, we have a dip of, was it 2021 or 22, because of, we got loaded up early on projects. But then the amount of funding that goes into 7W is going to be increased immensely once we get 2022, 2023, which is kind of nice. Other item is the towards the end of this month, I want to say the 24th, MnDOT decided to submit for a build grant. Last year we did the St. Michael to Albertville, and we lost out to the city of Duluth for the build grant, which, you know, I hate losing, but that project did check all the boxes and hit all the buttons. God bless them, and help, thank you Duluth for that, get them some money in Minnesota. But District 3 decided at the last moment, I don't know why, but they decided to submit the one from Albertville to Monticello for build grant. So we're putting that together. Virgil's working on that along with Steve Bodnat, and that is go out there, that'll be the 24th of this month going out, and I'll probably be requesting that put on the board for the 16th to allow authorization to attend that. That's a one-day, fly out there one day, stay the night, do the next day, fly home.
In Washington?
Washington, that's meeting with FHWA, and that, again, that every time you get in front of them, we at least get to the dance. I did get to meet with FHWA with Hennepin County with that last fly-in, and it just, the more you get in front of them, the better we're eventually going to start winning some things here.
Do you think, would it benefit for Wright County and St. Michael, Albertville, Otsego, Monticello, to each do a resolution on how important this corridor is to these?
Virgil's doing that right as we speak.
I know he sent a letter to thanking Claudia for putting it forward, but would a resolution, does it really pull any weight?
I believe he's pulling that together probably.
Oh, he is actually doing a resolution? I just seen a letter and I was just curious.
I believe so, but I don't know it for a fact that he's doing it.
But I don't know, does a resolution?
It doesn't, because it's on MnDOT, it's programmed in with MnDOT, so we've already had resolutions in the past supporting everything 94, so it's.
Well, the bill grant, because it's going out to the feds, right?
Yeah, but we did that with the build grant last year. We had resolutions supported this, the whole corridor, because it's a regional corridor, and it's the emphasis with the FAST Act, it's more the freight, and since this is a major freight corridor from Chicago to Seattle, this one gets a lot more weight.
Well, with the advantage too, I mean, that the state has decided to do part of it, but there's a section in between that's gonna be
It's all about the money.
bottleneck.
It's all about the money.
I know, but that should really help sell
Correct.
the bill
And
grant.
I applaud, like I say, not only Steve Bott, but much as Charlie, Governor Dayton helped out on this, along with his Transportation Commissioner Zelli. Before, District 3 was not really doing nothing 94 because that 2-mile gap in the metro. And Governor Dayton, fire in his belly, he says, finish it out to the end, don't ever do that again. He made it so you're talking about cross-districting, make sure these things work on both sides. That was the beginning of making them come to the table, because before District 3 couldn't do nothing on the east end because of, you can't have the gaps like that, because otherwise we have a 212 situation. We don't want that.
Yep.
So it's coming along, and I think the importance, and now with the FAST Act, we're trying that, and my thing when we went there with the White House before is, we've been flyover country, how do we get some of these projects to, get some money here? And I think they want to, because we have 2 members on the Transportation Committee, I think they want to build on that, and let's see if we can get another one in here.
So are you looking at a approval to go out there on that on this July 16th or August 16th?
July 16th.
Because
July
you'd have to do
24th
that,
is,
because you wouldn't be able to do it, because we don't meet next week, so you want to get approval for it now if it would happen to come up?
it's
So he's
not,
going
it's
on
on,
the 24th.
On the 24th?
24th.
Oh, okay, August
Yeah.
24th, oh, the July.
24th.
Okay, you get approval on the 16th, I see.
Yeah, you could
I
get
thought, I
approval
was
on
say,
the
otherwise you're gonna have to
16th.
get approval today.
And I
'cause they're-
looked in the budget, it looks like there's enough money in the budget to pull this off, because this is a one-time, and like the transportation flying, which is basically a 3-day thing. This is basically a 1-day fly out, get out there.
Southwest has some tickets on sale for $95 one way.
Yeah.
You can
Hitchhike home?
hitchhike back.
I'll
Hitchhike back.
hitchhike home. Yeah, and the nice thing is it's on Wednesday instead of, so I'd leave like Tuesday night, so I don't have to miss a board meeting again. I mean, because that's starting to get a habit around here, everybody's missing board meetings. So that's coming up with that going forward, and that's the first day of the county fair, so they'll have to deal with that issue. But this is important, and Bill Grant, if we get an opportunity to get that can speed up that, because right now that's slated for 2025 construction, and we really don't want to wait that long. Get this thing done, and let's move on,
It makes,
Talk
about efficiency.
And that's what's hitting it, these things, and the fact that the Bill Grant was the finalist last year, we just lost out because there's only so much to go around. we have a good chance with this one. And just have to look forward to see what's going on. But that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Dodd?
Oh, it's getting late. Sue's fingers are getting, like, she's slowing down, so I know they're starting to bother her. She's not typing as fast. The only thing number of things, but the only thing that's really important is that out at Bircham Lake, we did a design build for the camper cabins, the bathrooms and stuff out there, along with the contact center. The group had met, and we had some recommendations on moving a few things around and putting in one shower at the contact center, which was just strictly bathrooms. And the shower at the contact center will be ADA, so that anybody will be able to use it.
Yep.
And then the camper cabins, again, there's 3 smaller ones, 3 larger ones. Looking at a couple of different designs, we've kind of narrowed it down so that it'll be very similar to what it looks like out at the down by the swimming beach with the rock just on the front, and that's it. Simple for the most part, and functional. And we should see final drawings and designs here within a month. And then I did actually print some of them out, but I forgot to grab them. They were at the shop.
Are these camper cabins, are they similar to like a KOAs that have just a little,
Yep,
just a little pod that's got, it's like a place to sleep on each side with a table in the middle type thing, and so it's not very big, but it's just basic.
That's all it is. It's for those people that would kind of like to try camping, but like my wife, her idea of camping is, poolside at the Holiday Inn. It's a little rougher than that.
But not quite primitive on the ground.
Yeah.
Some people can't sleep on the ground.
Yeah.
And those those little pods that they have for that work out great, and they're all over the country, and they're.
Yeah, and they'll be set up, oh, yeah, well, Lake Maria State Park has them.
Yep.
And they get used quite a bit. But I think with what's going to be going on out at Bircham Lake, overall with the city of Monticello and the center out there,
Oh, yeah.
they're going to get used. And not only that, but they'll also be able to get used in the wintertime. They'll be heated and air conditioned for comfort for, elderly people and that sort of stuff. But
You mean like
Simple and plain.
60-year-olds? The ARP eligible ones.
yeah. Here, you are available at 55, aren't you?
Yeah, but he's not. Not there yet.
Other than that, that's good enough for now.
I have a long list of things, but I'll just take a couple highlights. Thank you, Commissioner Burrell, for filling in for me on IT while I was at my Trailblazer meeting. We're in the process of switching gears with MnDOT. We're going to biannual funding versus annual funding, so it's a little bit of a different animal, and we're trying to working through trying to, I guess, predict out the growth or the needs or not needs that we may have, because it's a different trying to predict out the future. But that went well. We're also working with a new software that we're putting in to do all of our dispatching. It's a Reveal software. Right now, the software we have is for a much smaller system than we currently have. This basically software is brand new to the market. Nobody else is using it. We were actually, because it's brand new to the market, we're being a test subject on it. So we're getting it at no cost, but we'll have some annual fees ongoing for it, but we have to be the test subject of the software itself, so.
The guys that wrote Minlars had nothing to do with this one,
Yeah, I was
did
going to
they?
say, anybody associated with that better not be on that team.
So at this point, we had to throw some darts to the wall because we need something. It's we're a large system for rural transit. So you're not that route service that you have in the cities, but you're also not that little 8-bus system that a lot of the rural transit systems are. So I was trying to design something that'll work for our size of a system. And then with that, then like I said, the Highway 25 Coalition, or may have a future new name after our next meeting. We actually added some meetings here. We're going to meet every 2.5 weeks here over the summer because we hired a facilitator that is helping us kind of transition this group into a different scope. And so we started out that process. Administrator Kelly was very grateful I was really grateful that he joined us, and we were able to have I think it was about a 2.5 hour meeting where we were putting Post-its on walls and calling people out of the room, and we'd have to answer questions. I didn't know I'd have to think that that hard at 7 o'clock in the morning on what the Monticello, Big Lake, Wright County, Sherburne County area meant to you. The first thing getting out of bed in the morning.
Well, keep in mind, Commissioner Vetch, when I first got on that board just to try to get it started, it was a lot deeper than most people realized. And it's like, this is going to morph into something else. And so one of the words is the Commissioner Vetch Regional Development Area. I mean, for a name for your new
There you go.
No, but it's morphed into something, and it's need to be that thought out better than usually just, shoot from the hip and let's just do something here. Because this has a impact for a long term for both counties. And the way the funding mechanisms work now, if you don't have a regional buy-in on everything, they got to hit all these check boxes and hit all these buttons, you're not going to get the money.
And it's an interesting, because the group started out with about 8-10 people showing up to the meetings. You go back 24 months ago, and now I think Lee, what do we got, about 20-25 people there or more?
It's just getting long.
Yeah, it gets to be quite the group. So
Well, I'm glad that they're doing a better plan, looking at all the different aspects of it, not just the road.
well, and I think it's going to stem some things where we can maybe look at partnerships between the city of Big Lake and Monticello, and between Wright and Sherburne County, some partnerships that might be able to come out of this as well. So
Good.
Yep.
I didn't have a whole lot of things.
Are we done now?
I think I mentioned the Emergency Services Board, we're going to be voting on our budget at the end of July, but basically you can just plan on it being about flat, same as last year. The county fair starts July 24th to the 28th, so mark that on your calendars.
Where's that at again?
July 24th
No, where?
in Howard Lake, Minnesota.
I thought you said it was in the township.
In Middleville Township.
I just wanted to get you.
But there is one thing, though.
What's that?
There is no other county fair that is right.
No, they're the only right one there. So you got to make sure you make it to that. Then something else, I'll just maybe I'll just wait, but I'll put it out. The Crow, we had talked about disbanding. They're still there. The One Watershed, One Plan now, a bunch of people are coming forward. Maybe we could bring in a new administrator, because Diane left, and that kind of really, we thought ended it. There's a lot of people now, we still have the infrastructure there, maybe bring in the right administrator, because with the One Watershed, One Plan, we need a central coordinator anyway. If it's not going to be them, who's it going to be? So we're going to be having that discussion tomorrow, so I'll just put it out there. So be expecting the unexpected, whatever, so.
Commissioner Burrell, on that, I'd rather have it if we can have more local control versus St. Paul telling us what to do.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be that, but it would be, in our North Fork One Watershed, One Plan, we would have to find somebody in there to be the fiscal agent, another one be the plan coordinator, and then who is that gonna be, and is that gonna be the best efficient operation? So
We talked about that because right now, a lot of it was done through the Crow, was the big glue, the central leader of it. We talked to that at the Water Task Force, and how there has to be some bigger conversations on what's the impact of dissolving the Crow.
I'm gonna be meeting with Luke after this meeting here from Soil and Water, and I've talked with one of the Soil and Water supervisors already, and we'll just see where it goes tomorrow. I reckon it's going to be a long meeting.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
That kid got in trouble.
Let me see, I think that was about it.
All right. Then I guess we will, no other business?
One quick thing.
Yeah?
Happy belated birthday, Charlie.
Oh, happy
I'm so
birthday, yes.
sorry that your birthday wasn't filled with joy.
No. No, but it'll be better next year.
Good. And older.
I'll be old. Well, the year older.
Yep. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, more experience, not older, just more experience.
Then I guess we will adjourn at 10:30 here then, if there's no other business.